Hello friends, welcome to bispsolutions.com. My name is Sumit and today I'm going to demonstrate you how to display an overview of the components of cash flow over time using Tableau. So before moving on to the requirement and on creating a report in Tableau, first of all let's try to understand the statements of cash flow. So the statements of cash flow is a financial statement showing that how changes in balance sheet accounts and income affects cash and cash equivalents. In financial accounting, a cash flow statement is a financial statement which will be showing the changes in balance sheet accounts and income affects cash and cash equivalents and breaks the analysis down to operating, investing, and financing activities. Cash flow statement is intended to provide information on a firm liquidity and solvency, improve the comparability of different firms' operating performance, and also to indicate the account amount, timing, and probability of futures cash flows. So basically, the cash flow statements is concerned with the flow of cash in and out of the business. It translates the earning in the income statement into cash flow, and it reveals if firm needs to look outside for other sources of finance. The cash flow statements also provide information about the cash receipt, which would be indicated as cash inflow. Uses of cash we have done, that would be indicated as cash outflow, and the during a period of time. So the cash flow statements has three parts: operating, investing, and financing activities. There can also be a disclosure of non-cash activities, and it is the cash flow statement is partitioned into three segments, namely cash flow resulting from operating activities, cash flow resulting from investing activities, cash flow resulting from financing activities, and also it may include a disclosure of non-cash financing activities which we can mention in a cash flow statement. So operating activities basically transactions that affects the net income. Investing activities, transactions which affects investments in fixed assets like property, plant, etc. Financing activities, transactions which affects equity and debt of the business. And operating activities, in as we know that cash flow basically targets the cash inflow and outflow. So for operating activities, we have following cash inflows and outflows. For financing activities, we have cash inflows like issues of debentures in cash, and cash outflow will be payment of loans. And investing activities will be while we would be investing somewhere. So cash inflow will be sales of fixed assets. So whenever we sell a fixed asset, we would be getting some cash. Or investing activities, in the cash outflow for investing activities will be purchases of fixed asset, purchases of investment, or working capital. More about this operating, financing, and investing activities, cash inflow and outflow. So this chart indicates that okay, what are the activities which include these are the activities which involve in operating activities, investing activities, and financing activities for inflow of cash. And for outflow of cash, these are the activities are responsible for outflow of cash in the following operating activities and investing and financing activities. So let's have a look that how can we prepare a cash flow statement, the sum in Tableau. And in order to do that, I would be extracting data from a website called Morningstar, and I'm using data for PepsiCo Inc. from Morningstar, and I would be downloading the cash flow financial statement. As you can see, we have cash flow from operating, cash flow from investing, and cash flow from finance. And I would be requirement. So my requirement is to display an overview of cash flow components. So that's the requirement. It would be displaying an overview of the components of cash flow over time. So here in this requirement sheet, They have displayed the operating cash flow, financing cash flow, investment cash flow only for 3 quarters, but we would be taking it for all 4 quarters for our respective year, for previous year. And the target audience for this report will be CFOs, VP of Finance, controllers, accounting managers, and analysts. And the final result of this report will be to display the overview of component of cash flow over time. So first of all, I would be extracting the data. So we can click on export and it will export the data to us. So I just simply export it, and okay, I replace it. That's the cash flow CSV statement, cash flow file. And you can see this cash flow file, the file which we have downloaded is not in a proper format. So we need to do some data massaging and so let me show you the data transformation. I have already transformed the data. So the data transformation should be in this form where we used to have the columns respectively like year, quarter, level 1, level 2, and also we transpose the net income, and these facts we converted into measures. So net income, depreciation and amortization, investment and all. And we have created the cash flow for operating activities, investing activities, and financing activities for all 4 quarters respectively. Now let's upload this data into Tableau, and let's create a visualization for same. So I have created one sample visualization what we are going to achieve. So let me show you, then we'll be going to see that how to achieve same. So my first requirement according to the sheet is that we need to display an overview of the components of cash flow over time with respective to 4 quarters, as I have mentioned over there. So here, so we have net cash provided by operating activities, financing activities, investing activities. Two more columns I have displayed here, that is the capital expenditure and free cash flow for 4 quarters. And free cash flow is equal to, it's a calculation where the operating activities minus capital expenditure, it will get the free cash flow. So this is the first requirement. The second requirement is I need to create a dual axis chart where we would be comparing, the operating cash flow, will be operating the operating cash flow with respective to free cash flow, and I present it in the form of bar chart using dual axis chart. And here the free cash flow is presented using line, and the bar is presenting the operating cash flow. One more trick I have added, I have given one filter option to the end user where the end user can compare the free cash flow with respective to the operating activities, or net cash provided by financing activities, or net cash provided by investing activities. So anytime if user wants to change, so we can, by default it is comparing with by using operating activities. I can select investing activities and the result is changed. So this comparison is free cash flow with respective to investing activities. And in same manner, we have an option for financing activities where we would be comparing the free cash flow with respective to financing activities. So this is a trick I have added where the end user will be able to change all the activities. So let's see how to achieve same. So let me create a blank Tableau book and connect to data, and I would be loading the data and drag and drop cash flow data. That's the same data set, the transform data, which I have shown you in an Excel sheet. Switch to sheet 1, and I would be going to drag, will be going to drag and drop the quarter wise data. So I drag and drop quarter, and the measures we have: investing activities, net cash provided by operating activities, net cash provided by investing activities, and net cash provided by used for financing activities. So this one is for operating activities. So I move this operating activities before the financing activities and investing activities. And first, the sequence will be operating cash flow, financing cash flow, and investing cash flow along with net cash flow. So let's switch it, and I'll just swap it. So we would be getting the net cash provided by operating, and I just change its alias, and I give this net operating cash flow. It should be operating cash flow. So operating cash flow. Second one is financing cash flow. So this one is for finance. So financing cash flow, and this one is investing cash flow. And okay, let me rename it. It should be investing cash flow. And we need to add a. I would be adding two more measures. One is the capital expenditure, and another one is the free cash flow. So this is capital expenditure and free cash flow. And as it is mentioned here, we will be looking for net cash flow, and net cash flow is the total of operating cash flow, financing cash flow, and investing cash flow. So I'll create a calculated column which is called, and I call it as net cash flow. So I'll call it as the net cash flow, and it would be operating cash flow, net cash provided by operating activities, plus net cash provided by financing activities, plus net cash provided by, let me add it, net cash provided by investing activities. And okay, so we a new column is added, that is net cash flow, and I display net cash. So that is the net cash flow, and I can move this net cash flow before capital expenditure. So this is the, now we will do some transformations. First of all, I hide the labels, and I change the format to currency format, because as you can see it is showing in minus. So it should be in, it should display, I convert it into dollar. Now you can see a bracket has been added. It means these values are in negative. Bracket indicate these are negative values. So for net cash flow, so I'll just change for all of them. Capital expenditure and free cash flow. So I did some transfer. I changed the format of it. So this is the first requirement we achieved successfully. Now the next graph, I would be comparing the operating activities with net cash flow. So for this, and that to be with respective to quarters. So first of all, I drag and drop quarters and operating activities, net cash provided by operating activities, and net cash, sorry, cash free cash flow. And this free cash flow I converted as dual axis. Now as you can see, the measures are the axes are not synchronized. So first of all, I synchronize both the axes, and I present the net cash flow by operating into bar, and the free cash flow I displayed in the form of line. And this I want to hide this, so let's hide this, and also I hide this as well. So because it is already mentioned, it is for, with respect to quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, and quarter 4. Also let's display the values on labels. So I just add the values on labels both for operating activities and for free cash flow, and I set the format as currency for both for uh, fine. Now the next requirement, I was talking about the trick, actually that's not a requirement but that's an additional feature I would like to add, that whenever a user wants, end user can change the measures. I would like the end users to change the measures. So in this case, we need to create a trick, we need to perform a trick, and I would be creating a parameter for measure selection purpose. So I simply create a parameter for measure selection. So I call it as measure parameters and string type list, and I'm going to add the values, and values are, this is the actual values, and then we have a display as. So the actual values, I just copied it from there because we'll be requiring the actual column names, and this is net cash provided by operating activities. Second one is the net cash provided by use for investing activities. And third one is for financing activities. So I'll copy here net cash provided for financing activities. Financing activities. So by default, the current value is operating activities. We can set the default value to operating, investing, or financing as required. So I'll go with the operating activities and click on OK. So you can see a new parameter has been added. Now we are going to create another calculated field. We are going to create a calculated field for measure selection. So I create a calculated field and rename it as measure selection. And I'll just write a condition that if measure parameter equal to, here we need to give the values. So the values we are copying, that is the same we copied it, we provided in the selection in measure parameter. So again we need to copy net cash provided by operating activities. So I just copied it and add it here. So operating activities, then net cash provided by operating activities. Else if measure parameter equal to, then there's a trick that we do not need to copy it from Excel every time. I just copied it investing activities, and I copy this investing activities over within the brackets. Then else net cash provided by financing activities and enter. You can see the calculation is checked and it is working fine. So I click on OK. Now, first of all, the parameter will act as a filter. So I show the parameter control, and you can see the parameter control is showing as operating activities, investing activities, and financing activities. So I added the parameter, and now we are going to replace this net cash operating activities with the measure selection we have added. So I added this selection and removed this. So you can see, let me show you, if I'm changing the values, you can see the values are changing, the graph is changing. And because the changes has been done, so I'll just create it again, drag and drop, create a dual axis chart, synchronize the axis, and I would be showing this as a bar and this as line. And quickly I'll show the values. It's a free cash flow, and for measure I would be showing the measure selection, and for measure selection, format and convert it into dollars. Close the format tab. Now let's test it. So if by default it is showing operating activities, if I switch to investing activities, you can see the selections is applicable on the graph. So we can, so like this we can dynamically provide an functionality or a filter to user to make the selections on measures. We can change the color themes and all. So I'll just change the color theme and set the color as, I just set the color as selection assign palette to measure selection. And for free cash flow for line, I set the color as uh, let's say red one. So I'll just select the red one and select the uh, only for free cash flow. So select edit color, free cash flow, red, and I select free cash flow and assign this and OK. So you can see the selected values along with the values at the top of the points. So this is how we can achieve the reports, and finally we can add them onto dashboard as required. So that will be going to see in next. So that's all in this video. If you like this video, don't forget to press like button. If you have any comments, you can post your comments in comment box. Keep watching. Have a nice day. Goodbye.